Monica Eaton, founder of Lyft. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, I'm looking forward to it as well. So first and foremost, I'm going to give people the lay of the land, I guess. Today we're going to discuss what I think is a striking lack of women representation in STEM. And I'll say it once, just in case not everyone's fully familiar with science, technology, engineering, and of course, mathematics. Especially there seems to be a lack of people in this space when we're talking about fintech, with only 8% of leadership roles in fintech companies held by women. All right, that's what we're eventually going to get into. But before we do that, I really would love to hear a little bit more about your background and what led you to founding Lyft.
Yeah, I have noticed the same thing. I think it's hard not to notice. Being in fintech myself, and also being, sometimes I feel like I've been solo in technology as a woman for quite a large number of years. What I always wished I would have had was a mentor, and actually many mentors. And just I think that there's a lack of that in the industry. So I started out in technology by mistake. It was by accident. I actually wanted to be an architect and studied art and architecture. And one thing led to another. I had some incredible opportunities and ended up getting into technology and found, I had an aptitude. I loved math, but I really like to see how, you can create something tangible and bring something to fruition. And I think that this is one of the things that I was interested in solving, is kind of not only, creating a mentor and mentee program to really help women advance and increase their level of confidence and network, but also help promote awareness that, technology and some of the STEM studies, this is creative work. It's artistic. It's incredibly fulfilling. And for women, I literally think this is one of the best opportunities in a career space that exists because of the flexibility and the growth.
No, absolutely, my goodness. Okay, so thank you. Great for that was great background. If we think about Lyft in and of itself, what's the core essence of what you all are trying to accomplish?
So we're really trying to connect, up and coming women that are interested in building their career, or even those that have felt rather stagnant. Maybe they just want some advice. They want to be able to network, and and also connect, those that are more advanced in their career and they have, a great level of influence, but we believe that we can actually allow them to reach even more and create an even more positive effect. And if you consider, the different challenges that women face in any industry, but especially in technology and fintech, where you're a minority in most cases, I think there's a lot of value that comes from just the camaraderie in being able to identify, like-minded individuals, listen to stories, learn from anecdotes, and get inspired by people that have taken some of the same roads.
That's brilliant, and I think it absolutely makes a ton of sense, no question whatsoever. All right, so thank you for the background there. Let's take a step back a little bit and then work our way through some of the concepts or ideas that are out there. So just my own personal experience, I've been in technology since I was a little kid. I was like 7 and 8 years old, like reading things and trying to understand them. In the beginning, like meetups at libraries, and then eventually, I dare say I've been to probably 400 to 500 different conferences around the world, meeting with people, especially in technology, either talking at those conferences or just participating. Most of them being technology. Especially certain emerging technologies like early in the days with like cryptocurrency or I would go to conferences and just by looking around the room, it would literally be 95% male. And I was always like, what in the world is going on here? I am still trying to wrap my head around going to these different conferences and seeing that sort of thing. Where do you think this stems. How does this, like, if we're starting from the very beginning where we're drawing interests from people, mine was my own just personal interest of like, oh, how do I fix this? How do I work with this technology? And just literally as a super nerd, like no friends, just working on stuff and playing around with it. How do we encourage more people to do something like that?
So I will say all of us have a super nerd buried inside of us. We just need to find it, right?
Yeah.
I think that it starts at a young age, to your point, and there's a lot that plays into culture, tradition, etc. So I can lean on my own background, and I think I'm a great testament to how if we can change the way that we approach things from the bottom up, then we'll end up, creating a lot more endorsement for STEM technology. So at an early age, I was probably like very traditional, like many women and teenagers. And you know what? I wanted to be a fashion designer. I was interested in home ec. I love cooking. I like sports, but I was really interested in fashion and art and all the things that traditionally women are interested in at that age, and super traditional. And my parents moved around quite frequently. And as a consequence of that, then one of the high schools that I went to, there was no electives in anything that I was interested in. I couldn't take fashion. I couldn't take sewing. I couldn't even take typing. Like this was the age where you had to like start from the bottom up. And
Yeah.
I ended up like enrolling in this computer programming class, which at the time I was like, my life is over. I'm now going to join a whole bunch of super nerds, and I'm not going to be good at it. I won't like it. And I actually found that I loved it. I absolutely loved it because I could apply, creative energy. I could solve problems. It was methodical, and that really got me interested. And I continued that path and that course. So just as a lesson, if we look at, and music is the same way, anything is the same way, but if you look at kids, today's society, I think that we need to ensure that they have exposure at a much younger age. And if my parents would have said, Monica, you can choose whatever you want, I would have never even explored whether I had an aptitude for that or not. I just thought, I don't see that other people are interested in it. I'm not interested. And just like if you want your kids to play the piano, another great analogy. No child enjoys practicing the piano. I promise.
So
my
true.
mother my mother was a concert pianist. I know that. And but you know what? You end up as parents, it's like this is what you're going to do. You will learn how to play an instrument. You're going to explore this. And then when you become old enough, you can decide if you like it or not. But chances are you're going to have, kids will pick up things, and our job is to make sure that they're exposed to all the different types of, arenas so that they can explore where they do have that natural talent and they have that interest and ability. And I think that's missing, in the US, especially after having, ample time to live abroad. It is something that we're falling behind a bit. So that's one thing. And then I think from the top down, to your point, it doesn't solve everything if we start, at a young age. We need to do something from the top down as well. And this was kind of a catalyst for the Lift program as well, as I was experiencing the same thing. I'm going to these conferences, like, where are the women? And the fact is, I think as a woman in the tech industry, you have an advantage. You can look at things as having a disadvantage, but wherever there's problems, there's equal opportunities, and I would actually argue even more. If you just have to change your mindset and look at the difference that you can make because you are a minority, and then really kind of advocate change and create a more diverse environment.
No, I love that. That's fantastic. And it makes a lot of sense to me as well. One thing that I would add just in thinking about this as you were sort of illustrating it is that I was actually really horrible at math. And I think
Really?
engineering, yeah, and engineering is one of those things that sort of, to me, always is a direct correlation to. But with science and technology in and of itself, while those are semi-broad in some ways compared to the other two, um, that's where I flourish. That's where I really love to investigate things, figure things out. And so I think if people broaden their perspective, women and men also broaden their perspective on that, and not just think of STEM as this, like you have to know math or you have to be an engineer, because that kind of is, for some, a single track, and they
That's
could be
true. That's
exceptional in
so
that.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that
So
is
no,
true.
go ahead,
And
please.
yeah, and no, I also think, when yeah, you're right. It isn't even just about, it's really about solving problems. What
Yes.
human doesn't enjoy solving problems? That actually creates a level of fulfillment. I don't care who you are. So really, it's like all these different tools that are utilized for your brain to figure out how to solve problems. And you can solve it with art. You can add creativity. You can bring things to fruition. You can reorganize things. But it really is. It's one of the most fascinating avenues to explore, and something that we should be investing in, and create a very diverse environment so that we're exploring every type of out of the box idea to get the very best results.
That's you're going down the path that I would love to continue, and that is like, how do we see the lack of gender diversity in fintech leadership having an impact on innovation and the development of financial and the fintech space technologies?
Yeah, so one of my favorites, and I'm going to be horrible, like trying to quote him, but Jack Ma once said something about where the future is headed, and I always will remember this because I just thought it was so astute. And he said, women will end up taking over the internet, and because women make things cozy and men care about coding. and, and it's so if we look at how things are evolving, of course there's all sorts of statistics, and because I'm a woman-owned business, I prefer to tout the most favorable statistics. I'm a better owner, I have higher profits, I do everything better than men. But all of that all of that aside, no, just kidding. But the thing is, at the end of the day, you really need a diverse mix, right? So if we look at how the industry is growing and how the economy is expanding, and we have borderless economies, one thing I don't think has changed, and that is that women mainly control the purse strings of the economies. And I don't care what country you go to, that has stayed consistent. So interestingly, if you look at, the world is becoming a virtual environment. So if you think of who are you selling to? You're no longer selling to men. You're really selling to women. And so it makes a lot of sense to make sure that on your team, you're involving a different mindset, a different approach, and you're also selling to new populations. It used to be 20 years ago that demographics were pretty segregated, and you knew exactly who your market was, you knew exactly where you're selling to. The world is becoming much more borderless. We're becoming, a lot more fluid in so many different environments in so many different ways that it's no longer the case of you have a website and you only sell in the US. No, you have a website and you sell to every single culture in every single country. And to the extent that you can represent those countries, those cultures, those mindsets, you're going to have a competitive advantage over those that are much more single focused.
No, very well said. So along those lines, what are the challenges that women are facing in fintech when it comes to career advancement, and maybe securing those leadership positions?
So I might have a bit of a controversial view on this. So
Okay,
I
bring it.
believe, yeah. I'm not a fan of victim mentality. I'm actually like totally against that. I think you can look at a problem as a problem and an obstacle, or you can look at it as a problem as an opportunity to excel. And so, I'm from the school of thought that discomfort builds strength. And the quicker that you can build that strength, that will give you an advantage over others. You're going to use it later on in life. So as women, if you're confronting discomfort and it's hard and it's obstacles, you know what? Eventually you're going to have to deal with a tough boss. You're going to have to deal with bullying in the workplace. You're going to have to deal with this. So look at the way that you can respond to any of the negative feedback that you may be feeling in a positive way, creating self-worth and strength through producing, becoming an expert, working harder. For me, I didn't get ahead in business because I was the smartest. I didn't get ahead because I was the most talented. I got ahead because I knew I would work harder than anyone else that knew me, and I wasn't afraid of working 24 hours a day if that's what it took. I was going to be an expert. And I knew I would not give up where other people would. And that tenacity and perseverance pays off. It always does. And so if we look at, if I look at what sometimes stops women from advancing, it is literally their own mindset. So as a woman, I think we've proven we can have it all. You don't have to choose between having a career or having a family. You don't have to choose between having kids at home versus going to school versus being involved in the school or having a work. And you know what? There's been significant change with COVID as a catalyst. I think that women have actually had to realize, right, wrong, or indifferent, many women had to go back to work because of financial instability with COVID. And guess what? We were all at home. We were all forced to figure out how to do the laundry, make sure the house is clean, feed the kids, take care of the kids, and by the way, also work and succeed on all levels. So that balance is achievable. It is a mindset change, and you're only going to get what you decide you deserve and you want. So you have to set that bar. And with women especially, it's that mindset, but there's also confidence. And rather than the worst thing with confidence is, and I also think tradition has kind of trained us a bit in a negative way. So as a woman, right, you grow up and you learn early on that confidence is linked to your self-esteem, and it's linked to what other people think of you. You may be told, you're pretty, you're smart, good job on this, good job on that, and you look for people's accolades. And you may also find confidence in a self-esteem type of environment by helping other people, being the great servant, doing different things. But that's not the best type of confidence. I think the best type of confidence that can never be withered away is self-worth. And self-worth is something you create for yourself. You don't rely on anybody else to tell you that you're good. You do it yourself, and you only can create self-worth by creating a goal and accomplishing it, and actually setting high goals that at first you think you can't complete, and actually delivering those results. Because that type of performance creates the type of confidence that can't be that nobody else can step on. And that's something that I think, more and more women, hopefully through the LIFT program as well, will start to recognize. You can create your own self-worth. You can create your own confidence. Don't be afraid to dig in and give it all you've got. Because at the end of the day, life is always going to give you some discomfort and challenges. And it really is just about that mindset and how you choose to take those obstacles and turn it into a strength, rather than a weakness.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more on the self-worth piece. I love the idea that you're talking about how you're working very hard on things and just pushing through as much as you possibly can to improve yourself, to improve what you're working on, to understand things more. And that usually parlays into advancement, into learning. It doesn't always. I mean, I've seen instances where you just keep ramming your head against something and it just doesn't work out. In those situations, I think it definitely helps to go back to what you had originally talked about, which is mentorship and guidance and networking and all those critical pieces that everyone needs. But certainly we're talking about women in this instance. So how do you see that working these days? How does mentorship and networking opportunities work best for women right now?
Yeah, so I think great examples like to your point. If it's deciding that you're not going to quit on achieving something, on achieving a level of success, does not mean beating your head against a wall until you pass out, right?
Right.
So, but it does mean part of that means, hey, actually, I've done this so many times, it's not working. Guess what? I need to change something. It doesn't mean that you're going to lower the bar or you're going to change your goal. If you want to be something, if you want to do something, then keep that vision and keep that mission. But you need a confidant, you need an advisor, you need a mentor, and this is where you're never alone in the world. As much as this is something else I've learned, and I think every entrepreneur goes through this, we all think that we're the only ones that are dealing with problem ABC, and then after a while, this is how most businesses even get formed. Story after story. Man, I thought I was the only one that had this problem, and then I discovered there's a whole market. Everybody has the same problem. And you having the ability to really be able to be vulnerable is an asset. It's a strength, and oftentimes we forget that. And having like a safe place where you can meet up with a mentor and just pour your heart out and say, you know what, these are the things that I'm struggling with. Like, what do I do? It must be only me. It's amazing how many similarities we find. That is, we're all connected at the end of the day, and all of us have so many similar experiences. And the nice thing about the mentorship is that it's just as fulfilling for mentors to be able to assist people and feel like you're able to help somebody and guide them in a direction that it's actually one of the most rewarding things I think to date in my career, is being able to help someone first see their real value, and then also help them get back on track where you can see them like wavering, they're not quite sure, but it just takes you back to all the times that it's human nature that you were doubting yourself, and how great it would have been that you would have had somebody that coached you along. All of us have had those amazing teachers, an amazing sports coach. It's usually there's someone in your life that made a dramatic difference, whether you call them a mentor or not, whether they were a teacher. And so, being in an environment where we have an opportunity to help connect people with each other, I think that that's really what it's all about.
Fantastic. So if people wanted to learn a little bit more about either trying to find a mentor or I am a mentee, whatever, they wanted to learn a little bit more about this, how do they go about it with Lyft?
So you can definitely visit our website. You can also contact us online. You can go to chargebacks911.com. You can even connect with me on LinkedIn. We're definitely open and willing to help, and look forward to assisting you guys.
Fantastic. One last question. This is a little off topic, but related to the whole fintech space. Do you have any thoughts? What are your thoughts right now on like DeFi, so decentralized finance, or tokenized assets? Is that something you've ever looked at?
Yes. So let's see. I have to be careful for political reasons
Okay.
because we have to be Switzerland at the end of the day. We're all Switzerland. Uh, no. So look, pros and cons. I think that if I look at, let's face it, the majority of payments today are made with cards. And why is that? And I just happen to be in the chargeback and dispute space. And I'll tell you the reason why is because if you pay with your card, then you have 0% liability. You have all this consumer protection. You have chargeback rights. But if we look at how much things are growing, then I do think that there's a lot of change I think that is on the horizon, for sure. And there's bias currently in the market. There's there's terrific opportunities for alternative payment methods, crypto, bank-to-bank transfers. I mean, it's crazy. And if we look at, it really creating a much freer market that's more sustainable, that is more competitive, then we do need to challenge the way that things operate today. Because the way that things operate today, we're kind of operating off of the same infrastructure that was designed to support an economy 20 years ago. And really, part of it is advanced. The other part is pretty far behind. So I think, I would predict even a card is probably going to go away. It's going to be tokenized, in a lot faster than we all think. That there's a lot of digitization. And part of this, if you look at the way the world works, here's what happens. First, you have massive technology evolution. It's debatable whether it's technology that creates consumer behavior or whether it's consumer behavior and demands that prompt technology. Whatever, you have technology, tons of evolution, lots of revolution in that space, and as a result, complete shifts in the way that consumers behave, demands shifted, and that structural shift, you're not going to go back. Consumers are thinking in a different way. They want things that are different. Now, let's look at what that does to the market. Well, we know it as a foundation. Everyone needs something that's secure. Then they want it to be faster. Then they want it to be better. Next will be more transparent. And if you have that, now the next thing that's going to have to come in is we're going to have to challenge the way that things are regulated and the fragmented approach with conflicts of interest and bias to consider, actually, is this really the right environment that is going to allow sustainability? It's probably going to have to be challenged as well. So I think there's a lot of solid arguments on both sides, but I can definitely agree that change is inevitable and definitely needed.
Excellent. My goodness. Well, I really appreciate that perspective because as someone that's specializing in chargebacks, I was like, how would this potentially work? And I think we're still trying to figure that out for the long term, but more than likely it will have some impact.
Yeah, we don't have an ideal system today. It's far from ideal.
No,
So
it makes sense.
the good news is, more problems give us more opportunities to improve. Right?
That's right. And more people
Yeah.
to participate in it as well.
Yes, exactly.
Fantastic. Monica, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great talking with you.